8 ships, 400 missiles, one night, and the system the entire world depended on to keep the Persian Gulf safe just collapsed. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you changes everything you thought you knew about American military power, the price of oil, and who actually controls the global economy tonight. Last night, Iran launched 400 Khyber-Shekan ballistic missiles at 8 fully loaded Saudi supertankers crossing the Persian Gulf. Every single one of those ships was carrying between 2 and 3 million barrels of crude oil, worth hundreds of millions of dollars each. The United States Fifth Fleet was watching. American Aegis destroyers were in the water. Saudi Patriot batteries were active and tracking. Every alarm was triggered, every defensive system fired, and all 8 ships are still burning. The fires are visible from space. They will burn for days. And they represent something far more catastrophic than destroyed vessels. They represent the public, visible, undeniable failure of the most expensive military alliance in the history of arms exports. 50 years of American deterrence in the Gulf gone in a single operational window. Now here is the question no press conference is answering. If 400 missiles could do this last night, what is stopping 800 missiles next week? If you've ever suspected the official story leaves out more than it tells you, you're right. Subscribe now, because what I'm about to explain next is the part Washington does not want trending. Before I explain why Saudi Arabia's trillion-dollar American defense system failed completely, I need to tell you about a single drone that crashed in Iran in 2011, because without that drone, last night never happens. Stay with me. The Khyber-Shekan is not a missile that Iran stumbled into building. It is the product of 15 years of one obsessive engineering mission. Study American missile defense, find every gap, and build the weapon that fits through it perfectly. The name alone tells you everything. Khyber, a fortress considered unconquerable until it wasn't. Iran named this weapon after that moment deliberately. The fortress it was built to conquer is not medieval stone. It's the Patriot missile battery. It's the Aegis combat system. It's the assumption held for 50 years that American technology would always win. Here is what makes this missile different from everything that came before it. 3 things. First, range. The Khyber-Shekan launches from deep inside Iranian territory, over 1,400 kilometers away. By the time any American counterattack could be authorized, every warhead has already arrived. Second, terminal guidance. In its final seconds of flight, the Khyber-Shekan seeker activates, locks onto the radar signature of a moving ship, and tracks it. A supertanker moving at 15 knots has nowhere to go. The missile follows. Third, and this is the part that should concern you most, terminal maneuverability. Patriot intercept computers calculate where a missile will be based on its flight path. The Khyber-Shekan maneuvers in its final seconds. It forces the computer to recalculate. Every maneuver compresses the intercept window further. Multiply that across 400 simultaneous inbound tracks, and you have not a defense problem. You have a mathematics problem with no solution. Now, remember that drone I mentioned? In 2011, an American RQ-170 Sentinel reconnaissance drone landed almost completely intact inside Iran. Not shot down, landed. Iranian electronic warfare teams spoofed its GPS signal and guided it to the ground like a remote-controlled toy. Iranian engineers reverse-engineered what was inside. The GPS receiver architecture, the signal authentication logic, the navigation system American platforms depended on. What they learned gave them the blueprint to build a weapon that does not need GPS at all. The Khyber-Shekan's GPS-independent guidance system was not an accident. It was the direct product of studying American technology from the inside. Iran did not build a missile to beat us. They built a missile using our own blueprints, against us. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next section explains how Iran just did more financial damage to America with 400 missiles than any military battle in decades. You need to see this. Here is a question almost nobody is asking right now. Why supertankers? Why not American warships? Iran has the range. Iran has the missiles. So why specifically target Saudi oil? The answer reveals a level of strategic calculation that will change how you understand this entire conflict. I'll get to it, but first, let me show you what the Saudi defense actually looked like from the inside. Saudi Arabia has spent over $1 trillion on American military hardware, and last night every piece of that hardware performed exactly as advertised. That is the devastating part. This was not equipment failure. The Patriot batteries fired. The Aegis systems engaged. Every system did its job. The problem is mathematics. 400 simultaneous missiles require 400 simultaneous intercept solutions inside a compressed engagement window. The combined American-Saudi defensive architecture does not have that capacity. The residual threats, the missiles that survive, still number enough to destroy their targets. The only real solution is direct strikes on Iranian missile infrastructure inside Iranian territory. And here is why that option stays permanently on paper. It triggers full Hormuz closure, strikes on American bases across Iraq, Qatar, and Bahrain, and Hezbollah's full strategic arsenal against Israeli population centers. Iran has spent 20 years pre-positioning a retaliatory architecture calibrated to ensure that the cost of destroying its missiles exceeds the political will to do so. That calculation was validated completely last night when Washington responded with statements instead of strikes. So why specifically target Saudi oil tankers? Because Iran is not fighting a military war, it is fighting a financial one. Since 1974, Saudi Arabia has recycled its oil revenues through American financial markets, buying U.S. Treasury bonds, sustaining global demand for the dollar. This petrodollar system is the invisible architecture underwriting American global financial dominance. Iran has been sanctioned, excluded from dollar-denominated trade, and subjected to financial warfare for 40 years. Iran knows this system better than almost anyone, because it has been on the receiving end of its full coercive force for 4 consecutive decades. 8 burning supertankers are not a military strike. They are a precision attack on the physical infrastructure that makes the petrodollar system function. The message is surgical. The security of Gulf petroleum exports, the baseline assumption on which 50 years of American financial dominance rests, can be denied on Iran's timeline, not America's. That is not a military victory. That is a structural strike against the foundation of American global power. What you're watching is not a news event. It's a turning point. Subscribe if you want analysis that treats you like an adult, because the final section determines what the next 50 years look like. OPEC was founded on one foundational premise, that member states can coordinate petroleum production with confidence that their oil will reach global markets safely. That premise did not survive last night. Oil prices are already moving beyond ranges futures markets assign near zero probability. And into this vacuum, China steps forward, the world's largest petroleum importer and simultaneously the only power with the relationships to broker a resolution. If Gulf states begin pricing petroleum in yuan, if the recycling mechanism sustaining American financial dominance since 1974 begins to erode structurally, the blow to American global power exceeds any military defeat in the modern era, not because America lost a war, because America lost the financial architecture that made winning wars affordable. There is one question I haven't answered yet, and it is the most important one. Why now? Iran has had this capability for years. So what changed? What happened in the past 6 months that made Tehran decide this was the moment? I'm covering that in the next video, but hear the conclusion first. 8 supertankers are still on fire. OPEC is fracturing. Washington is repositioning aircraft carriers, the visible theater of deterrence, not the substance of it. The Khaibar Shikan did not just destroy 8 ships, it destroyed the assumption that American deterrence in the Gulf was permanent, the assumption that Saudi Arabia's trillion-dollar investment translated into physical security, the assumption that the petrodollar system was too structurally embedded to be disrupted by force. Those assumptions are burning alongside those ships, and unlike the ships, they cannot be replaced. The fires on the Gulf are not a news story, they are a punctuation mark, the end of a sentence that began in 1974. That sentence ended last night. The next one has not yet been written, but the people who will write it, with patience, strategic discipline, and the willingness to build capabilities their adversaries insisted could never exist, have already identified themselves. So tell me in the comments right now, is this the end of American dominance in the Gulf? Or does Washington have a move left that nobody has seen yet? Drop your analysis below, hit like, and subscribe, because the next video answers the one question I planted in your mind 10 minutes ago. Why now? That drops in 48 hours. Don't miss it.